Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of College Football Uncensored, brought to you by Saturday Down South in Texas Pete. I'm your host, Tyler Huck, and with me as always, my co-host and recent Jacksonville native, Chris Marler. Chris, how
How are them
was
dogs,
Jackson?
Tyler?
Hey, the dogs do it again.
Man,
How's your trip down to Jacksonville?
it was fun. So I was like, the game was cool because Candler Cook just is the best and hit us up as he got into town on game day, um, and hooked us up with suite tickets. So that was fun. That made the game 1,000 times better because we had to watch it in the suite instead of in the upper deck.
Sweet.
So Jacksonville itself was kind of weird. There's like several little pockets of, I don't know, like downtown areas. So like the first night we get in and I'm like finishing up like some video stuff. We're watching the World Series game, whatever, at the hotel. Not in a hurry. And so then we get an Uber and we go to like someplace close to like this stadiums and meet up with one of our listeners, Lillian. And as soon as I walk up to get a drink, they just shut down the bar. Just like everyone that was there left. I was like, what in the hell is going on right
Must
now?
have been listeners.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And they just all walked off. I was like, are you guys closed? It was like 12 o'clock and they were already closed. So that was kind of odd. And then let's see. I wore my Stetson fucking Bennett shirt. It was a big hit. So my buddy Grant Tall made sure to ruin that moment for me every time somebody complimented it because he would just tell them I'm a Bama fan right off the bat.
Come on, Grant.
So that's funny. But no, the first night it was like whatever, and like we go tailgate the next day, and the tailgating was fun because everyone was there, but the downtown area was like there's like Jacksonville Beach, which is like 40 miles away from everything, or 40 minutes away from us. The Uber situation was not good in Jacksonville. I'll say that. Like cops like block off like a radius around the stadium. They're like no one gets in or out. So our Uber driver just dropped us off like in this like sea of homeless people across the bridge, which was not my favorite.
Sounds fun.
He's like, "Good luck, guys." I was like,
Good luck.
The game or the murder?
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, it was fun. There's there's probably some stories I don't remember.
Did you guys have some beers?
Had a lot of beers. I mean, the tailgate was awesome. I will say that those bomb ass Nikes that Liz bought me right before the game, I didn't bring the right socks. So right off the bat, like 50 yards into like game day, I had like two massive blisters on my. It was awful, awful. But it was fun. We got to hang out with some other listeners too. I met up with Josh Hancher, who we've had on the pod before, Dog Stats, and he was at a tailgate, with what turned out to be 3 different people who had either followed me or blocked me on Twitter. So that was cool.
Oh, yeah?
That's about it.
Cool. Any rough run-ins?
I feel like there probably was one. I mean, no, I don't think so. There was I forget, there was like one guy in the suite who kept like every time he would talk, he's like, "Oh, you're Connor," and I was like, "I'm not."
Oof.
And then then he just every time he would start talking to me, he would only bring up the national championship, and then kept calling me Connor, and I was like, "I don't know who sent you here."
Connor himself.
Yeah. No, it was good. It was a fun weekend, right? Like it was like some really good games and stuff like that.
What was the weather like down there?
So for me, it was perfect. It was overcast and dreary as shit. But like, it made it like, I don't know, like probably 60 with wind. But see, like in a suite, Tyler, you have air conditioned.
Yeah, being in a suite would be nice.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. Yeah. I ate roughly 47 Asian dumplings with my hands and was hoping no one saw it, but they did. So,
well, we all know now. Well, let's get into the week. First off, you've got a new award to give out. And with that, by the way, we're just going to go ahead and say before you get to the award, let's just take a quick time out here at the beginning of the show to recognize one of the spiciest plays of the weekend.
Yeah. Oh, I missed this one, huh?
That was Texas Pete.
Oh, never mind.
Texas. Yeah, you didn't miss Texas Pete. I would assume over the weekend.
No, I
know
never
I
do
did
that.
not. Got a breakfast burrito this morning. Put some Texas Pete on it.
Okay.
But if you haven't had it, go out TexasPete.com. They've got, not only do they have the sauces, you could go for the original hot sauce, which is what I have, or you go for their new traditional barbecue sauce. Either way, you go to TexasPete.com, get those, or you get some Texas Pete apparel. I would love to have some Texas Pete apparel. I need to get on there and get some.
Yeah.
Recipes. That's interesting.
I made it out of the labels too. It's homemade.
Oh, cool. Take 20% off your order if you go on to TexasPete.com. Promo code Uncensored. It's going to get you 20% off the sauces, whatever you want. Apparel, recipes. I don't think you have to pay for recipes. Or do you?
I don't know.
The only way to find out is go to TexasPete.com. And you've got an award from Texas Pete to give out.
Yeah, so we do. We have a brand new award we're going to be giving away this week. And listen, I'm pretty sure I stayed on a Peter. I think it was up and down. Tennessee is just the gift that keeps on giving with gambling. But I'll tell you who did not stay on a Peter is the guy that we kind of thought was just a foregone conclusion to have a great weekend. Our first, I want to say first annual, because we've been giving them away every week. Okay. And this is a really nice award. I got it back from the actual trophy place. It's made with real sterling silver, which I don't know if you've ever bought your mom a necklace when you were 8, but it's the same material. It's really nice.
Okay.
The Texas Pete least valuable Peter. Okay. So just the least valuable Peter in the entire country. Sam
Smallest
Hartman.
Peter.
Smallest Peter is a better. You know what? The Texas Pete Smallest Peter Award for week 9. Sam Hartman from Wake Forest. Now, I don't know if you guys saw what happened to Wake Forest this weekend, but I would.
Vegas always knows
that they were favored by 3.
Right. They were pretty much blowing out every team they played all year, and almost beat Clemson. And then they come into Louisville, who's been pretty mediocre. I think they played better of late.
Yeah,
and everyone that was I
was all over it.
Yep,
I was all over it.
You all over the right side?
All over it? No, I was all over Wake. It was one of my best bets of the week. Sam Hartman coming into this game, by the way, he had 21 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Phenomenal quarterback. So let me just tell you what happened. Should I tell you the number, or should I just read you I'm going to read you the drive chart, because they didn't score in the first quarter, and at halftime they were down 14-7. So already down one bet here. But they're a second half team. They're gonna come back. Everything will be fine, Chris. Everything will be fine. Sam Hartman comes out, and I mean, he is slinging it, and not to anyone he should have been slinging it to. This is the drive chart for the second half. Let's see here. Interception for a touchdown. Fumble. Interception. Fumble. Punt. Another pick 6. Another fumble. Interception, and a touchdown. We got a touchdown. It's very end of the game. They scored with 14 seconds left to cut it to 48-21. The 3-point favorite, Wake Forest, went on the road against Louisville, had 8 turnovers, 6 by Sam Hartman.
Weren't 6 or 7 of them in one quarter?
Oh yeah, I'm glad you asked. They were all in the second half.
I think 8. They might have had. Yeah, it was something crazy. They had 5 or 6 in one quarter.
Oh, I'm sorry. They were all 8. They were all 8 in the second half. I'm going to read this again.
That's a tough second half on the road there,
How many,
or anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere. 8. Hold on. 9. They had 10 second half possessions. 10. They had
8 of them were turnovers. 2 of them were pick sixes.
They had 1 punt. 1 touchdown with 14 seconds left and 8 turnovers. You imagine, that's oh man. Yeah, so there's that. They went down again. Oh, I'm sorry, they were winning at the half. That's right. I was up 1-0 in my picks because they scored with I don't know, a minute and 11 seconds left, something like that, to take the lead at half. And they got to come out and preserve that lead. And instead of preserving that lead, they had more turnovers than the fucking British Bake Off. So
I like that. All right. So Texas Pete, Smallest Peter this week goes to Sam Hartman of Wake Forest.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna start in the SEC. I'm sure you guys want to hear about it. Maybe you don't. Tennessee
My God.
just absolutely obliterated Kentucky. I mean, some might say that we've been on this whole story of Kentucky not being that good for a while, and we
Yeah.
also, and I'll have to go back and check, but I'm pretty sure we're both on Tennessee.
Being good.
No, covering this game.
So I think I didn't want to take the full game. I kind of liked Kentucky to cover the 11.5 because Stoops has been a machine. But all of the best bets I had were Tennessee first quarter, first half score for all that, and good God.
I mean, just a demolition. This game was never close.
No, it was that. So Kentucky scored in the first quarter. It was a first quarter touchdown, which they don't get a lot of those. And then they were like, you know what? We're good. We made improvement this week. Let's just shut it the fuck down for the rest of the last 50 minutes of this game.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a total demolition. I mean, Tennessee's. Were you surprised at the line? We could talk about the game, obviously, later this week, but that came out for the Georgia game.
9.5.
Yeah.
No, I love it though. But hold on, real quick. Because there's so much to talk about in this game in particular.
Yeah.
One, Will Levis, future number 1 overall draft pick. Will Levis comes in. He struggled. Had himself a real struggle bus of a game. And when I say struggle bus, I mean Will Levis had 98 yards passing, 0 touchdowns.
Surely mean you mean rushing, of course, because he's like Josh Allen. You know, he's got big legs.
Yeah.
98 yards rushing, you mean?
No. That would be incorrect. He had 98 yards passing.
Oh.
Remember what I said before this game, going into it, like we talked so much about the Tennessee offense. But the defense has been playing really well. And I remember bringing up the fact that rush defense is a top 10 ranked rush defense. And immediately I got pushed back like, well, you know, it's because their pass defense sucks. Tennessee, that entire game, they shut down Kentucky and just didn't stop. The game was over the first minute they scored. Kentucky, when they scored in the first quarter, missed the extra point. The game was over in the first quarter, literally and figuratively. And Tennessee's defense with 3 interceptions, 4 sacks on the night. It's kind of scary what Tennessee could be evolving into.
It is. So from the very first drive, I was actually at a wedding last night, but I was the guy that had the phone that everyone was watching the game around, and then of course my wife got angry with me. But you know, we turned it on. I propped it up on a little glass there on our table, and Jalen Hyatt just nobody within 15, 20 yards of him on the first touchdown.
It happens for sure.
And you're thinking, wow, here goes Tennessee. And then Kentucky actually came down, like you said, scored the touchdown and then missed the extra point and just never scored again.
I mean, I was so impressed with what Tennessee was able to do. It kind of felt like I wasn't hoping Kentucky would fail at all. But Will Levis, this felt like such like a kind of what we already thought we knew, confirmation bias of like, I mean, he has all the physical tools. But this is his 12th game against an SEC opponent in his career at Kentucky. It's the 9th time he's had at least 1 interception. He's had 1 career 300-yard game against SEC opponents. He's had 2 3-interception games. And for Tennessee, who's kind of like, you know, they're not like dismantled in terms of, or like, you know, they're not playing like all backups. They're like having like half the defense out, but they had several people out in that secondary again. And I was so impressed with the fact that they moved a safety to cornerback. That kid played out of his mind. They shut down Chris Rodriguez. But Hendon Hooker, man, another 4 touchdowns, 0 interception game, just makes it look easy. And then when I said what they're evolving into, one, shout out to the entire program and what they're doing at Tennessee, because they're now creating what is like almost like a nationally like applauded and like they kind of are becoming 2019 LSU because everyone is enjoying the story. Everyone's kind of pulling for Tennessee right now, which is I never thought I would see that. Did you see the intro to this game?
Yeah, the bit like the T and the like the lights out and
my God.
Yeah,
That was awesome.
they're feeling it right now in all
So
aspects.
yeah.
Hendon
So
Hooker's the favorite for the Heisman now.
as he should be. They
Yeah.
also Tennessee has the fourth or the third best odds to make the college football playoff. It's at 60% right now. And they come into last night and they finally get Cedric Tillman back. And like from a statistical standpoint, he didn't have that crazy of a night. I think he had 4 receptions for 22 yards. But what stood out to me most was that line with Brew McCoy, Cedric Tillman, and Jalen Hyatt. They combined for 15 receptions of Hendon Hooker's 19 total completions. That's scary for defenses everywhere. And also Jalen Hyatt, who had 2 more touchdowns, he is now tied for the national lead for touchdowns on the season with Quinshon Judkins and the entire Georgia Tech offense. It's incredible, man.
Georgia Tech is very bad.
Yeah.
So obviously, for Kentucky, knocks them out of the top 25, or at least it should. I haven't.
They did. I think they're like 27 somehow.
We saw this coming from Kentucky. I mean, their offense hasn't been good all year. This isn't a surprise. It seems like Tennessee's gonna be able to score on anybody.
This was like, honestly, it wasn't even their best offensive night.
Right. I think this is the 11th straight game that they've had 30 or more points. It's a school record.
Well, remember Kentucky had 11 straight games where they hadn't allowed 24 points or more. Tennessee got it in the fucking first half. Just like Bama, man. They fucking killed them.
So this is going to be a really fun game coming up this coming weekend. But anything else on this game?
No, we'll get a little quick look ahead later. But I was really impressed with Tennessee. I think that's pretty much it. So what was next? What game is next?
Well, that leads us to Tennessee's opponent next week, Georgia, against Florida. You were at the game. To me, so, obviously I watched the first part of this game where, the last thing I saw was the crazy Bowers play.
That was,
and then that made it 21-0, I think.
Yeah.
And then we got in the car to go down to the wedding, which was at Fernbank, actually. Very cool wedding. And, we listened to it on the radio, and I think at one point, what was it at half? Like 28-7?
28-3.
3. That's right.
Yeah, you know why it was 28-3? You could tell it's 28-3 because then you look what happened in the third quarter.
Yeah. Yeah. And we started hearing that too on the radio, just like, and on Sirius, the only thing that was available was Florida radio. My wife's a Georgia fan, so that was a little painful. And I never really felt like Georgia would lose the game, but it got hairy there for a second. Just a second.
Literally just a second.
Yeah. And then Georgia just came down and we're like, well, we should probably stop fucking around here. And, just proceeded to blow out Florida. But what was the atmosphere like? Did it feel like in a stadium? Were Georgia fans getting nervous?
No. So, a couple. I don't know how to tell you this, but I had to leave the suite several times to go sit on a couch in the lobby because my feet and my back hurt so much from standing all day. So
they didn't have like seats in the suite.
They were all taken. It was like an entire family, like the Duggars. They were in the front row, taking up the entire thing. So no, but it was like Georgia fans were pumped, man. And I think because if you're a Georgia fan who grew up and had to deal with the 1980 stuff, you also sat through 30 years of this rivalry where you lost 21 of like the 30 games from like 1990 to like 2020. I believe that's accurate. And you get your heart broken so many times by this team and or just like, blown the fuck out. And just, so they were amped up because they knew what was coming and they were very excited to give all of that to Florida. They do not, there's not a single person that was in red and black this weekend that would ever for a half second feel bad for Florida. No, they wanted to pour it on them from jump, and they did. Florida fans didn't really show up. Like it looked like the end of the game when they started. Like there was hardly anybody on that side. It seemed like. So the atmosphere, Georgia fans were just excited to give out a beating. You said this. It got hairy for a half, for a second.
Yeah.
What was your takeaway as where do you think Georgia is as a team? Or do you think they're the number one team in the country after what you saw this weekend?
It felt like almost they just started going through the motions a little bit and almost like not even trying to be disrespectful, was like getting kind of bored, looking ahead. They know they had Tennessee the next week and just kind of let Florida, make a few plays and sneak back into it to make it somewhat respectable. And then they just decided to turn it back on again. I mean, I think Georgia is capable of obviously beating anyone in the country. So I still view them that way, but this team does not have that like killer instinct I feel like that they did last year. And that's a all-time defense. So tough to compare, but it's the last version of Georgia that we have. I just I don't know. I think they're beatable. I'm actually surprised that the line is as high as it is against Tennessee.
I think this is a perfect setup for Kirby. And there's good and bad that's here, right? But I think all of the good, it's kind of like, people are like, Bama fans did this after the Tennessee game. It was so stupid. They're like, we had 17 penalties and blah, blah, turnovers and did it. And we still only lost by 3. Georgia had 3 turnovers, had the worst quarter of their season, had multiple lapses in the secondary, and had still beat their like biggest rival by 22 points and had 550 yards of offense. Stetson Bennett had 300 yards passing. Dejan Edwards was fantastic. They had 4 sacks on Anthony Edwards. They had 10 quarterback hurries, didn't allow a sack. I mean, they looked really, I don't say bad at times. It was just because, like you said, they just kind of had a couple lapses in focus, I think, for the quarter. But the most impressive part to me was Georgia goes up. It's 28-20, and I never felt like that game was close until that score to make it 28-20. I was like, okay, well, maybe they can do some of this. And Georgia did Georgia things. They come back from commercial break, and Gary Danielson was probably talking about Alabama or something. And they went 6 plays, 74 yards in less than 3 minutes and put their foot on Florida's throat and never fucking let up. And then the next possession, same exact shit. I mean, the fact that that game was close for a second, they did exactly what championship teams do, and that was immediately put it away. I love what Willie Gray said here. He said, gave them hope and then snatched their soul. That's the best. It really was. Now, I will say this, though. There are some things that are a little bit concerning if I'm a Georgia fan, especially going into the Tennessee game. I love that this is what this game could be in terms of the two offenses. Brock Bowers had a field day, but a lot of that was on that stupid prayer at Jordan Hare type catch that he made. It's ridiculous. But also, I will say this right now: Georgia did get all the calls. I'm going to throw that out there, and we'll talk about it later. But this is, when they started the year, they had their first 3 games. They were the only team in the country with 0 turnovers, right? They've had at least 1 in 4 of their last 5. They've had multiple turnovers in 3 of their last 5. And in the last 4 games, they've had 0 interceptions. Their turnover margin is -6. That part kind of concerns me because they have not been able to, until this weekend, they hadn't gotten to the quarterback very well. And they also hadn't been getting a lot of turnovers lately. So I think that kind of thing would concern me going up against Tennessee coming up this weekend.
Yeah, and you got Jalen Carter back, but you did have Nolan Smith in street clothes in the second half for this game, so that'll be something to watch. But yeah, man, I mean, I think it's going to be a great game next weekend. I can't wait to preview it and all that in this week's pod.
Ohio, the other pod, both of them. You hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I think you're a little delayed,
listeners. Why?
Not like your audio, but I think my audio is taking a while to get to your audio.
Yeah, that's definitely happening. I don't know what to do about that. Anyway, but they had I got 2 messages from listeners today, very upset with takes from the other podcasts. Apparently, Matt Hayes said there's 0 doubt in his mind that Georgia is going to get beat by Tennessee. And then referenced this game yesterday as to why. That is a bold statement, man. That if you think just because of how great Tennessee's season's been, that Georgia is going to roll over and take an L at home, and it's like an automatic loss because of how good Tennessee's offense has been. Man, you are.
We'll see. That's why they play the games. You're muted currently. I don't know if you know that. All right. So the next game here is Ohio State and Penn State. Got the all-time backdoor cover there at the end because I took Ohio State for the pod, but I haven't going to pick them, and I took Penn State plus 15.5. And yeah, they covered there at the end, which was nice. I believe Chris might be frozen, so this is not good.
I hate everything. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
This is fun. This is good.
So we're talking about Ohio State and Penn State now.
Mm-hmm. That we were walking to the stadium, and somebody was like, "Penn State just scored, 21-16, 4 minutes left." I'm like, "Oh shit!" From that moment to the rest of the walk to the stadium, which I don't know, maybe it was 7 minutes. By the time I got there, Ohio State was up by like 20 points.
Yeah,
it was absolutely ridiculous. Yeah,
it happened fast. And they were covering at one point. Like they got so far up. Like I was so confident because I think you were frozen, but I have a pick 'em that we have to pick 10 games against the spread each week. And I took, even though for the pod I took Ohio State, I took Penn State plus 15.5 in there. And I was like you said, I was covering and pretty much looked like I was going to cover easily.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, Ohio State was covering the spread like within 3 minutes. And I was like, great, this is the worst. And then Penn State hit the old backdoor TD at the end there. Yeah, man, Ohio State's impressive. I mean, what's impressive to me, Penn State actually ended up scoring a bunch of points in this game, but you're starting to see some playmakers for them on the defensive side of the ball. That JT, I don't know how to say his last name. It's like a Samoan name.
Right.
He was the number one recruit coming out a couple years ago, maybe last year even. And he signed late. So like after signing day, so it just kind of went under the radar, but that kid was all over the field.
Everywhere.
He had what did he have? Like 2 fumbles caused, like
they
a
had
pick six. Like he was incredible.
Yeah. Also, Sean Clifford had a little Sam Hartman in him in that fourth quarter, man. Like I almost felt bad for James Franklin until, I just watched his antics on the sidelines, and then I did not feel bad. They had the lead in the fourth quarter. And how pumped do you think like that sideline was? Everyone in that stadium, like you have 10 minutes. If you could just hang on somehow, you're going to upset. You've held the best offense in the country or top 2 to 16 points. CJ Stroud only had 1 touchdown and 3 plays, 75 yards, gave up the lead and then fumbled through an interception. Like it was embarrassing fashion. But yeah, Ohio State, I think like they are a lot more balanced, like not just offense and defense. They have a lot more playmakers than people realize.
Yeah. Yeah. And at one point in this game, like I can't remember, it was definitely second half. Penn State's win probability was like 70%. So like the game was in the balance at some point. But yeah, Ohio State just did. I mean, their receivers are always just like nasty. You got Marvin Harrison.
I can't spell any of those names at all, but I know they're all good.
I can spell Marvin Harrison. He had 10 catches for 185 yards in this game.
Jesus Christ.
Julian Fleming was the top receiver coming out. I mean, Emeka Buga.
That's the one I can't spell.
Yeah, that one's tough. You've got Jackson Smith and Jigba. He didn't have any stats in this game, so I'm guessing he didn't play. I mean, just an embarrassment of riches. And, it's been interesting to see Travion Henderson has really not been the player I thought he was going to be after last year, especially. I mean, we knew he was going to be special, but I haven't really heard his name much this year.
I thought his like preseason prop from Vegas was like 1,200 rushing yards. And I was like, oh man, they're going to go so over that. That's free money. And I didn't include it, thank God, because I think he pulled a hamstring like on the first drive of like game 1. and he just hasn't been the same ever since.
Yeah, he's got 550 yards, 6 touchdowns, going into week 10. So
Yeah.
not a great year from him, from what was expected at least. But Ohio State keeps rolling. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how they fare down the stretch. I mean, Michigan's rolling as well.
Yeah.
And so that game is setting up to be a really good one. Would you have Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio State? How would you rank them? And Michigan, for that matter.
Well, we're going to get into our playoff rankings at the end.
Okay.
But Tennessee has the best. I would have them at number 1. That was the 5th team they beat that was ranked at the time they played them this past or last night. We do need to pump the fucking brakes on the whole Tennessee's 2019 LSU like as a team. Right. I think that is a little bit absurd. People forget that team that for LSU won 7 of their 15 games against top 10 opponents. So, but yes, I would have Tennessee first, and I think I would have Georgia second, just based off their resume. Oh, I mean, this is like Ohio State hasn't played anyone on the road, so this is the first game they've had on the road. But yeah, there's a lot of time left. Also, we need to start people need to start giving TCU some damn respect, man.
A lot of people were on West Virginia because everyone was like, well, this were you?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people were because they were like TCU's run. I mean, they've played like 5 straight ranked teams, like
Right.
and not West Virginia wasn't ranked, but you're going into Morgantown, not always easy. I think it was a noon game, so it was kind of like a just one of those sleepy games, and they came out and scored 41 points, and they're still undefeated, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, they also I
think they won like 3 games last year.
I think they did too. They also have they've had some wins in dramatic fashion, like the Oklahoma State game. Side note, what the fuck happened to Oklahoma State? Jesus.
Yeah. I had heard that they had like a ton of players that were injured, and they were like just praying for the bye week. And I didn't know it was that bad though.
The bye week was in week 3.
Oh, theirs was?
Yeah, I remember seeing it. I was like,
or maybe they got an easy game coming up. I mean, they got destroyed. Like, what was it, 46-0?
48-0 to a team in purple. Bill Snyder was there. That's why he was in attendance.
Kansas State, man. Yeah, dude's fun.
I just realized also Bill Snyder from the old Kansas State coach is basically just geriatric Paul Rudd. Like Paul Rudd hasn't aged like a minute. Bill Snyder has been 74 years old since 1993.
I didn't put those two together. That's interesting.
Go.
How about Ole Miss for Texas A&M?
This offered up the possible moment of the week. I didn't realize that Lane Kiffin had a giant chip on his shoulder going into this game, and if I would have known that, I probably would have bet more on him.
Yeah. Well, they didn't end up covering. Wasn't it a push?
Lost the first quarter, lost the first half, and then they did the opposite of what they've been doing all fucking season. So that part did bother me. Basically getting into the game, A&M comes out. They go viral again for all the wrong reasons for a ritual ceremony on Friday night that was a mix between Eyes Wide Shut and a Klan rally. So that was cool.
It looked like the clips going out of Charlottesville a few years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just weird shit, man. Like I try not to be mean, but it's like, why are you guys doing that?
I mean, also, I wish that we could all just collectively see all of their weird shit at once. It's because this has been people have already seen them do this months ago. I don't know why it just now is coming to the surface, but anyway, they start Connor Wigman.
I think it's just an easy time to pile on Texas A&M right now.
That's fair. They start the true freshman Connor Weigman. They had a tough week because they had some people smoking weed in the locker room, which is frowned upon when other people.
Did I hear that was before the game as well?
Yeah. Not like
can't really be locked in when you're stoned.
All right, y'all focus up. What?
Y'all see that TikTok? Hey. Yeah.
So they they come back home. It's their first home game since week 3, which is tough. And they
was that when they lost to App State too?
I think
Miami. Or no, they beat Miami. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. But anyway, so
Tough way to
but
go
they
out
come
for
out
them.
and they like Weidman looks good. He's like, he had a fantastic start to the game. At one point he was completing like, I don't know, like 70% of his passes had, he ended the game, I think, with 4 touchdowns, and 330 something yards. They kept battling back. Like, I was impressed with what Jimbo and the offense for A&M did this week. I really was, because it's been a pretty big struggle, right? And that's gotten a lot of the attention. Again, I did not know that Jimbo Fisher called Lane Kiffin a clown. And of all the things for him to have done, I didn't like, if you're 3-4 trying to get to 500 with just the biggest fucking like self-induced struggle obstacle, like to get there, you're walking around with a fucking Cheesecake Factory menu as like your play calling sheets, and then you
It
have
looks
to
like
go
he's
beat.
been eating a few cheesecakes.
He keeps getting wider, not even fatter, just wider. But no, like they come out and they score 14 points in the first quarter, which they hadn't scored more than 14 points.
They were like going up tempo. Like Jimbo refuses to do that. He comes out and it finally works. This is like one of those rare things where it's like all the fans are like, yeah, you should like probably just try to run more plays, give yourself more chances.
No.
And he's like, no. And then he does it and it works. And then he's just all of a sudden like, fuck it, no, I can't do this. And he went back and then they lost.
Quality. You want to have quality over quantity. I'd run 12 plays a game if I could. Yeah. Anyway, so they they get up 14-7. I'm distraught because I have no idea how this is happening to Ole Miss. Again, they've been so good in the first half. They come out in the second half. They ran for 390 yards on Texas A&M.
Dude, Quinshon Judkins is already over 1,000 yards for the year.
He also has 14 total touchdowns.
Cute.
He has the same amount of touchdowns. That's incredible.
That's a true freshman, isn't it?
Yeah. So
crazy.
I mean, so now Jimbo's at 3-5.
Tough.
Did you see the troll from Ole Miss too?
I did.
Hey,
what was that?
I don't know. That video was like the weirdest fucking video I think I've ever seen.
It was like a 14-year-old made it.
Yeah. It was like Steve Brule in anime. Something. It was really, really odd. But they asked, Kiffin afterwards something about a Halloween, and he said, yeah, maybe Jimbo could dress up as the Joker because it was a clown comment. And then I love the fact that he addressed it like in a petty way, and then also in the post-game press conference. But yeah, I mean, Jimbo's got the Aggies up in smoke. There are positives to take away from this if you're A&M, but most of those positives are going to be just vastly overshadowed by the fact that you're fucking 3-5. And here's the thing, guys, as a fan base, you shouldn't have talked all that shit, and you hitch your wagon to the one of the biggest assholes and kind of like self-absorbed people in the conference. It's not your fault necessarily, but man, it kind of did this to yourself.
I mean, you can't blame them for being excited. Now, you always have to see it on the field before, at least in my opinion, if I ever get cocky about a team, which is very rare, I got to see it on the field for like a sustained period of time before I ever can feel confident talking shit.
Yeah.
Texas A&M's never really seen it on the field with Jimbo yet.
Robert Barron's predicted they would go 12-0 last year. Remember that?
He did. He's a good
my
guy.
Favorite person. Yeah, he's a great guy.
But it was bad. It wasn't good.
Here's the deal. Go ahead.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because they're gonna beat UMass. You've got Florida at Auburn and LSU. Let's just say we're just goofing here. That they lose all 3 of those games.
Auburn?
Yeah. They go 4-8. Do you think that you had people calling in the Feinbaum show saying it'd be cheaper to just have somebody kill him? There's got to be some rich, crazy people out there that would be just like, fuck it, just give him $80 million. What do you think that would happen? Like if they, like, let's say they lose to Florida at home, they lose like last second to Auburn in some miracle Auburn bullshit way, and they beat UMass and then get blown out by LSU.
All of those things could happen.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
I think what most likely happens is that they win 2 of those 3. I think they probably somehow beat Florida. And again, Weigman looked good, man. He did. He had he put up the best numbers for any quarterback they've had since that Kellen Mond Florida game in 2020. But 300 yards passing is like that's if you're gonna call yourself a QB whisperer or a quarterback guru, you can't have a full season from a year ago where Connor Weigman, if he completed 66% of his passes or something like that. It's the highest completion percentage of any quarterback they've had in the last 2 years. It was his first start. And now also Jimbo, since he did all this shit to himself, he's getting like you can't even celebrate like the almost moral victory because people are like, why the fuck wasn't this kid starting the entire time? You're starting King Joffrey, Haynes King, who has 6 interceptions this year and like 12 passes. I don't know. I think that they'll end up winning and somehow ending on a positive note. But what should absolutely happen, regardless of who they beat, somebody needs to step in that game against Auburn. It needs to be like a fucking WWE match. And like, listen, I tell you what, I'm going to put my belt on the line and whoever wins or whoever loses has to pay the other team's buyout for their coach.
Whoa.
Think about that. Like a tables, ladders, and contract buyout match in a cage.
Wow. No, I mean, okay, I'm not even trying to be funny.
Your
You
smile
gotta give me your honesty. Yeah, no,
right now.
coming from me, it's gonna sound ridiculous because you're gonna know why I would be saying it. But for real, who is it worse for when Jimbo bailed on Florida State? Was it him or was it Florida State? Because I don't know if you could just recruit like he does, but play in the ACC and play that schedule, you can see what happens. You look like a great coach. Same thing, more money, more resources at A&M, and you're struggling to not be last in the damn West.
Yeah.
Now he get paid, so I guess at the end of the day he wins. We went into serious financial debt because everything got fucked up.
Oh, A&M's about to as well. I mean, the only person that won that entire move was his wife because she didn't have to deal with him anymore.
Right.
That's kind of fucked up. I shouldn't have said that. No, I think that what we can all learn from this, guys, and I'm not great with money. It's let me talk to you right now, Ross Bjork. It's a stupid fucking last name for one, but 2,
it's like a Bond villain.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jimbo is the Bond villain, but
yeah,
if you are on the hook for I don't know guaranteed money that's over $50 million for your coach that has never won you anything except for a COVID year Orange Bowl, if they win 8 games and they beat the number 1 team by 3, and then that team also ends up going to play for a national championship later, maybe we don't extend them. Maybe the only extending we do is some of those gas station boner pills you'd buy called extends, and we'll chip in for it. We'll get them for you, but you guys need to calm the fuck down spending all this money. You guys are like all of our girlfriends with like Amazon packages. Just chill the fuck out.
Right. Yep. That's fucking Amazon packages. Yeah, so going to be really interesting. I mean, obviously, another good win for Ole Miss. They did exactly what was expected of them by the people in Vegas, and
not me.
We had talked about this going into the year that they opened up with such a soft schedule, but it was going to be tough down the stretch, and we had a lot of L's preseason coming down the stretch for starting basically at that Auburn game. They won that one. Now Auburn's a lot worse than we thought.
Who did? Ole Miss?
Yeah, like when we started the preseason pods, we were like, look, they played Troy, like Western Carolina, Georgia Tech, Tulsa, Vandy. Like they had Kentucky. But we're like, they're going to start 5-6-0 maybe after that Auburn game. You had at LSU, at A&M, Bama, at Arkansas, Mississippi State. We're like, man, those you might lose like almost all of those on the way down. Well, they've just beat A&M. They did lose to LSU pretty badly. You're pretty much on track to have a really good season still. But
Tyler, they're fucking 7-1.
But I'm saying, those first 5 games were basically, or 6 were basically layups, even preseason.
Right. I think, go ahead.
I'm just saying this is where you're here to prove yourself, and they've just done that playing against A&M. Now, it's not the A&M team that we thought it would be going into the preseason. But to be fair, LSU isn't either. LSU is actually better than we thought they'd be.
Bro, here's the thing. Hold on. If you're an Ole Miss fan, if you're like an Ole Miss fan who's seen like three, I think, New Year's Day bowls since like 1963, like they have not. Oh God, they like the bar has not been like the tradition and history of Ole Miss is mainly from the like that little Sherwood Forest looking tailgate spot outside the stadium. It's not what happens on the field. So if you would have told a Ole Miss, fan that like, hey, you're going to lose the best quarterback you guys have had since Eli Manning, and Matt Corral, and you're going to win 10 games that year, but you're going to come back the next year and somehow be better and be 8-1 going into Bama, and you have a bye week beforehand. Yeah, every single one of them would take that. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I understand they haven't played a lot of people, but being 8-1 in the SEC is still a feat, especially for that program.
Yeah, so they go into this week get a bye, get some people healthy, and then you go, you host Bama at home, and you see what happens there. I mean, it's that'll be a good game. Bama will be coming off an LSU game that we'll preview this week. At Arkansas, maybe doesn't seem like the toughest game as compared to preseason. I mean, it's still at Arkansas, so it's still a tough game. I think. What do you think Arkansas will be favored in that game?
No.
Yeah. And then Mississippi State. So, really special season happening here for Ole Miss. Michigan State.
What the fuck?
Boring game until the end, like literally after the game.
Yeah, I mean,
what happened, dude? First of all, after the first time, like it was never a good idea to have two teams go into the same like hallway to go to their locker rooms in the middle of a game.
No.
But I guess they thought maybe that would work. So after the first time you had a fight, you'd probably
think that in place forever.
Right. But that's what I'm saying is like after the first time there was a fight, you'd probably be like, this is probably a bad idea. Maybe times have changed. There's not the old sportsmanship 1950s football. This is grown men that are gladiators that are out there to hurt people. And they're always going to be fired up coming off the field, especially after a rivalry game and a loss. And I mean, some people got their asses beat in there.
Here's the thing. If you are like, there's that, famous clip of Ohio State and Michigan coming out of the same tunnel for a game in like, I don't know, 10 years ago. And everyone's jawing at each other because Ohio State's already out of their locker room. Michigan comes out and then sees them. So I think that maybe Michigan was like, oh, like it'll be fine. What's the worst that could happen if we run out at the 50-yard line, by the way, which is the dumbest fucking thing ever. Like the 50-yard line. And then, and these two teams hate each other. Like, I don't mean like the people of Flint hate the city of Flint. That is this rivalry.
Yeah.
And they come out and like, I guess maybe they thought it was like, oh, they're probably going to jaw back and forth. It'll make for some good theater. No. Going into the same locker room after you just lost to your rival, and I wish that Bama would have done. I would have curb stomped Tommy Tuberville. Not like probably metaphorically. That was also kind of really fucked up that the kid got jumped basically, and then got up like nothing happened and just walked away. It's like,
well, then that second video came out where one of the dudes was like swinging the helmet at one guy. Like it was insane.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But yeah, I mean, Michigan continues to. I mean, let's see. They didn't cover this game. I think they were 22. They covered it right on the.
It's kind of close early.
Michigan minus 22, and they won by 22. Yeah. So Michigan continues. I think they obviously hold their spot where they're at. I've got them over 9.5 for win total. So I'm feeling
like that.
Feeling good about that. They're at 8. I went and checked my win totals that I put in at the beginning of the year. That TCU one still burns a little bit.
Yeah.
The under 6.5.
That's tough.
They're 8-0. But yeah, not much to say on that game. I mean, it was a 3-5 team versus a 8-0 team. So
yeah.
Let's see. Arkansas, Auburn.
This game pissed me off.
Why is that?
We're in the Uber to go to the game, right? And right before kickoff, I'm like, I see a tweet that says, so-and-so is now listed as the starting quarterback today for Auburn. And it was like somebody I'd never heard of, which is I was like, wait, what? And I was like, oh God, what did Harsin do now? Because there's like rumors are, you know, a lot of times it could just be rumors. And I know Jimbo hates things that start on the internet like that. We just take
Slice
for
bread.
slice
Slice
bread.
bread.
But like Auburn,
It's ridiculous.
anything is possible. Any of that shit is possible if you're Auburn. And so I was like, oh my God, this probably is true. And it ended up working out because I was just like hammering Arkansas. But yeah, it was just one of these things where like it was just a rumor and it wasn't real. And all of a sudden, you know, you're putting out these reports that this kid is going to be starting for you, and it's like he's like a true freshman or something. I don't know. Anyway, but Arkansas, this was the biggest miss in maybe years from Vegas. I never understood what was going on here.
Yeah, strange.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, Arkansas just 41 points. I mean, I don't know how you get a team like Auburn motivated right now. Like everyone knows that Harsin's going to be fired. It's like they're 3-5.
Let him smoke weed in the locker room before the games.
Yeah, I don't know how he gets that team motivated either. To be honest, with all the distractions that seemingly are caused by him.
Yeah,
which it's not a good look. But back to the point. It's just, you know, that was a weird line. I guess it's at Auburn. You know, Arkansas hadn't lost and been 6 straight games.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, this is Auburn's 4th loss in a row here for the season. It's probably not going to get much better for the Tigers this year, I got to say. I mean, I don't think I'm breaking news there.
I tell you what, here's the thing that, like, you've given up over 40 points, I think, in 3 straight games, which is not great. But remember, like, going into this, it was like, okay, well, I just Robbie Ashford has looked better. Like he's like a little bit of a ray of hope, right? Like for this program, he's like the one thing you could possibly believe in, besides your stupid fucking creed. But you know, KJ Jefferson did exactly what KJ Jefferson always does, which is, you know, on the ground and also through the air, be super efficient, not turn the ball over. Auburn did score 14 points in the 4th quarter, which is, you know, something they'd struggled with a lot. But they gave up like Rocket Sanders had 16 carries for 171 yards. You're giving over 10 yards a carry to their running back. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's awful.
What, you have the Bills game on?
No, there was a noise in my headphones because of the stupid ESPN just turned on. And I just peed myself a little.
Yeah, Rocket Sanders, man, 10, almost 11 yards per play. 16 carries, 171 yards. Just an all-out dominant performance from Arkansas. And, you know, they had a little rough stretch there for a bit, but hey, you know, they could use this game to get right back on track. They're now 5-3 on the year. Let's see. I'm going to their current schedule. So they got Liberty this weekend.
Liberty's ranked now too.
They are ranked.
Hugh Freeze got an extension.
Yeah, they did. Liberty, LSU, Ole Miss, back to back, but all at home.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. And then you end the season with Mizzou. So I'd say for what we thought of them as a program coming in, that they're still on track to hit their goals, be a 8-9 win team.
Yeah.
And Harsin, I'm just waiting to hear the news about him, man. And I was with I was around some Auburn fans at the wedding last night, and I asked them who they wanted to get. They said, "Well, you got to go with Hugh Freeze."
I'm sure they did. Did.
And I said, "Did you see that he got an extension?" And they said, "Well, didn't change his buyout." So
they already know that.
They got the finger on the pulse of Hugh Freeze.
That is not where you want to be in life.
Yeah, you don't want your finger on anything around Hugh Freeze.
No, you don't want his finger on you either. So
right. Last game, a little bit of a heartbreaker for the Cox. Missouri coming out. Spencer Rattler's not good. Let's just
say it, right?
I mean, I feel bad for South Carolina fans because they were hyped up about that. I can see why you would be. Dude is not good. He's just not.
I mean, yeah. And even if he was, I don't know if it, like, this is just the most fucking South Carolina thing ever. Like,
yep.
you know, I remember, like, I was talking to Dorian about this, and he was talking about it on air too, but we were talking on Friday. And he brought the point. He's like, how real is this ranking in this 4-game win streak? And I was like, don't say that. Like, it's an accomplishment either way because of where that program was. And he's like, no, stop fucking saying that about like, just like it's a huge victory. They played Kentucky without Will Levis, right? They beat A&M for the first time ever because they had like 2 fumbles inside the 10-yard line. And like the more I kept thinking, I was like, oh my God, this is not a great, like surface level, it looks great, right? It's like a filter on Instagram. But you take a step back and then you start thinking of like how they were winning these games. And I remember him saying, he's like, they're going to get beat by Missouri. I was like, that line is really weird. That line is super weird. And I feel like I think you might be right. Because this is the most, they just got ranked. And they're like, you know what? I bet we can coast this weekend. We're a ranked South Carolina program. We've earned it. Jesus.
Zoo, you kidding me?
Yeah. You think they're going to come in here and beat us? Like, I think Drinkwitz and then they've covered like 3 of the last games against South Carolina. Maybe they beat them outright. I don't know. But the fact that you let Brady Cook fucking dice you up that's the worst part.
Yeah. That should be embarrassing in itself. I mean, look, Missouri's defense, man. Like we talk about it every week, but they're pretty good. You got to give a shout out. Like I think a lot of people wrote Missouri off basically to start the year, like kind of like on borrowed time, and they're 4-4, 2-3 in the conference.
What's been the one like bright spot of South Carolina besides the fucking like just lucky and fortunate bounce they've got on special teams? What's been the one bright spot or the biggest bright spot for them in the last 4 games when they had the 4-game win streak?
Biggest bright spot was probably winning at Kentucky.
Well, so I meant like okay, it was like, running the football. It was Marshawn Lloyd, is what I
yeah. Okay, all right.
Yeah. They had 203 total yards against Mizzou. 203. They had 32 rushing yards on 23 carries. They averaged 1.4 yards per carry, and Spencer Rattler, against all odds, found himself without a touchdown pass and at least 1 interception. So he's down the year, not great, but maybe he can turn it around. He's got 5 touchdown passes and 9 interceptions. So it's like, there's still time to make it even worse, which I don't doubt that he will do.
Yeah, and I feel bad for South Carolina fans because they got a good fan base, but
yeah,
that's a tough one there for old Beamer, and not altogether that's unsurprising though, to be honest.
No,
I mean,
not at all.
Anything else from this week that piqued your interest?
No, so I thought it was a good week in general. There was like a couple of things I thought that were fun. Like UNC, they had it was good game start to finish. UNC, they pulled away, I think, in the 4th. I didn't watch the end of it.
Their quarterback is really good.
Drake
and they're
May.
quietly, they're quietly only have 1 loss. So I mean, if they run the table in the Coastal, which shouldn't be hard to do,
No.
and then they could somehow sneak up on Clemson and beat them, which I don't think Clemson's unbeatable. I mean, he's going to be he'll be a top 3 Heisman candidate. He's a beast.
I doubt that happens, but yes.
Yeah.
I will also say that the Bo Nix hype train, it took a little bit of a hit this week because he threw 2 interceptions, but he also balled the fuck out again for like the 8th straight game. And Oregon was playing at Cal, I believe.
Yeah.
And Bo Nix listen, he's 80% passing again this week. Think about that.
Dude, and he had what, 6 touchdowns total?
Yeah. Yeah. Like who the fuck is this kid? So anyway, it seemed like there was just a lot of good football. But Bo Nix, yeah, he had 3 more rushing touchdowns and 3 passing touchdowns. It just, like I said, balling out.
Crazy.
So, do you want to do our CFP rankings come out on Tuesday? So we can all argue then. I'll probably do like a live reaction to it and tell you why you guys are stupid per change. But who would be your top 6 right now? Your top 4, then your first 2 out.
So I would join you. I think, even though I've said on this podcast before that if Georgia is the national title winner and they still haven't lost a game yet, they should remain number 1. But you do have to kind of take into consideration that I think Tennessee overall, not only do they have a better schedule that they've played against and won against, but they've looked more impressive to me than Georgia just watching the 2 teams. So I'd go Tennessee 1, Georgia 2, Ohio State 3, Michigan 4, and then my first 2 out would be Bama and Clemson.
Okay.
Bama over
I can
Clemson.
get with that. So I would have Tennessee, Georgia, Ohio State, TCU.
TCU. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue against that, honestly.
I mean, Michigan, I'm trying to look it up right now. By the way,
I think TCU would beat Clemson.
Yeah. TCU has scored over 40 points in all 5 of their last games, and 4 of those came against ranked opponents. I mean, like, they are a good football team. And we talk about so much about Tennessee's offense and Ohio State's offense, but TCU has been really, really good. Let's see. Also, by the way, side note, the other fucking least the LVP game of the week, Miami went to Virginia without Dick Van Dyke at quarterback, and it was awful. It was awful.
They won the game 14-12 in the 4th overtime.
4th overtime.
Dude,
at one point, it was 6-3. They had to kick a field goal to tie it up 6-6. 0 touchdowns scored in that game in regulation.
At all.
Right.
Because they didn't score any in overtime either. If Florida State's playing Miami this weekend, if we lose, I'm going to jump off a bridge. Okay, go ahead.
That's a lot. Jesus. Now I'm looking at the strength of schedule right now, and you look at like just where Michigan is at, and Michigan is ranked 79th for their strength of schedule. Yeah. And that's just, so that's why I don't have them in the top. And also, let's not forget, TCU's undefeated. Like, it's not like, they have like 1 loss, but they had a couple of good wins. They've gone on the road. They've done everything that you could ask for in terms of like putting up a good resume. I would have Michigan at 5, and then I would have Clemson at 6. Actually, fuck that. I would have Bama at 6 because they're better than Clemson. And that's it.
Yeah.
I was trying to be like PC there and put Clemson in because they were undefeated, but
Syracuse, that win that they struggled with got absolutely waxed by Notre Dame at home this weekend. So their QB did go out in that game, but still. Yeah, man, we're looking forward to the college football rankings coming out this week. Looking forward to previewing what's going to be an exciting week. You've obviously got the big the Georgia Tennessee game, as well as Bama LSU. Florida plays Texas A&M, so it's going to be a fun weekend. So we look forward to Wednesday's pod. Anything else before we let the listeners go?
The month of November starts on Tuesday, and there's football on every single night all month. So
Maction starts Tuesday night.
Yeah,
love that. So everybody, happy gambling season. This is where we turn it up.
Turn it up a notch. All right, we'll see y'all later.
All right, thanks for listening, guys. 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Go like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, please. It helps us out a ton. We'll see you later this week. For Chris on Tyler.